Well, thanks, Steve, and good morning, everyone. It's been for much of the state a fairly dry stretch here, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that here in a moment. And there are some changes coming probably in the upcoming week, but in general, the weather that we've had recently here is going to continue at least for a few more days. But I think the other message in our forecast guidance here, at least for the next few weeks, is certainly trending warmer than normal as well. So again, looking here at really harvest beginning in earnest, there it will be relatively favorable conditions, and again in terms of getting things dried down a little bit more, the dry down rates up and so forth, and conditions out in the field. But the dryness has become an issue. It has been more and more so, and I'm gonna talk about that as well here in just a moment. But um, let's start with a review of the past week here, and we went through a period in late August and then into the beginning of September. Remember where we were unusually cool, and it was the longest extended cool spell that we had during the season, and we missed out on some degree day accumulations that we typically get in the late summer, but we have turned above normal again, and you can see for the last week here on the left that mean temperatures range from really close to normal in the far southeast. That was the relatively the coolest part of the state, to as much as 4 or 5 degrees Fahrenheit above normal as you go north and west from there. More importantly, I think, again, thinking about water and our rainfall patterns here. The map on the right-hand side here are the weekly totals, and you could see for much of the lower peninsula there was little or no rainfall, especially for eastern sections of the state. We did see a few spots with more than a quarter of an inch, the far southwest, and then up over upper Michigan. But for much of the state, especially again the central and eastern lower, it was a very, very dry week. That was true across much of the eastern corn belt as well. And which brings me to my next image here, looking at long-term dryness. And the late summer over much of central and southern lower Michigan in particular has been unusually dry. It was the opposite in the northern part of the state, especially as you can see portions of western upper Michigan and northern lower Michigan. So a huge difference or variety of conditions across the state, from too little water to too much. On the left-hand side here, this is a graphic that shows the 90-day departures from normal. So this is going back to late June up through the present. And what we can say from the data, the numbers here, is that we are in some cases now running deficits just for the last 2 to 3 months on the order of 4, 5, 6, even up to as much as 8 inches. That's a lot of water. Remember our annual precip here, typically talking around 30, 32 inches or so for the whole year. So these are large deficits. Much of that deficit has occurred. It's been stacked more towards the end of the period. And as we can see on the left-hand side here, there are areas such as Genesee County, portions of the Thumb, even down in portions of interior southwestern lower Michigan, where there was heavy rainfall at times, but it was scattered. And so again, it really, really depends on where you are. But there are areas here again in central lower, especially in southwestern lower Michigan, where the deficits are in excess of 6 inches, which again is it's never good timing to have an extended dry period like that. But the end of the growing season here was definitely the case in Michigan this year. On the right-hand side, these are soil moisture percentages in the top 1 meter, about 3 feet of a rain-fed profile here. And at least historically, soil moisture conditions are very, very low, as you can see with the dark reds here on the map over much of the southern two-thirds of the lower peninsula. Again, especially over central lower and southwestern lower, where the deficits are the largest. So again, drought conditions, abnormal dryness continue here and probably will for the next few weeks. Degree day totals, a little bit different story. I mentioned that cooler period that we had in August into early September. That ate into our expected degree day totals for the year. But right now, as of the middle of September, you can see that our accumulations base 50, and this is assuming a May 1 plant date, and these are the 8650 cutoff degree days. So what we see on the hybrid seed bag, and what the requirements of the particular hybrid are. But those totals range from around 1,400 in the far north to about 23 or 2400 in the south. So and in most areas on the right-hand side here, this is relative to normal. We are at or above normal. The light greens are surpluses. And it's not a huge surplus, but it's still ahead of normal. The darker green is, and most of Michigan here is really close to the normal now but given the forecast, I think again it's probably safe. It's a good bet that we will end up the growing season here as things really wrap up with a little bit of a surplus of degree days this year. And so and the other thing is too, especially where dryness has been an issue, the senescence and dry down end of the season of the crops has been probably accelerated based on some of the dryness that we've seen. Currently out there, 50s, a fairly pleasant morning. In most areas, there are a couple of showers in the far northwestern parts of the state and western upper Michigan, but most of the state here, we're seeing variably cloudy skies with temperatures in the 50s, not much of a wind. There was some shower and thunder shower activity yesterday in Upper Michigan once again, and that's but almost none of that. You can see a little bit in the far northwestern lower, but generally dry conditions. Once again, most of September for the southern half of Michigan, we've only seen maybe 1 or 2 days with precipitation this month so far, and unusually dry there, and that will continue generally here today as well. On the weather map this morning, we have a cool front moving from north to south across the state. You can see that here. Well, as of 8 o'clock, it's projected to be in the northern lower, and it's moving southward. But there, as has been the case here for several weeks now, these weather systems have almost no water vapor, no moisture to work with, and so many of these frontal boundaries are going through with either just a few clouds, but basically dry. But gives that said, note that there is an area of low pressure off to our west, out over the northern Great Plains, and there will be enough of some uh, support for system. We could see some showers and or a thunder, maybe a clap of thunder. But if we see that, it would be most likely in western upper Michigan. But as that front sags southward, we could see a couple of isolated showers also developed in lower Michigan. But I almost don't even mention it because most areas will not. So they will be once again very warm today. Notice behind the front, we've got a big area of high pressure up over Canada, more cool and dry air, and that will already make its presence known here today in the northern part of the state. High temperatures in upper Michigan today only remaining in the 60s, while south of the front, down in central and southern lower Michigan, we will be well into the 80s again, probably most areas low in mid 80s. That'll also be the case tomorrow. A couple of degrees cooler tomorrow as the front moves through. Here's the map for tomorrow morning. You can see that boundary now down to the Indiana and Ohio line. That weather system to our west stays there. We've seen that a lot during the last week. Precipitation not too far to our west, but just not much of it making it into Michigan. The exception would be once again, like today, western upper Michigan, where we could see we'll call it scattered there, maybe a 30 or 40% chance of a shower or thunder shower. Dry elsewhere in the state. And then finally, by Saturday morning here, our last map, that weather system gets a little bit closer, and with it, it does bring the next chance for rainfall. Now, for looking beyond this, we will see the chance for, again, we'll call it scattered. It's not going to be widespread rainfall, but scattered showers and thunder showers in far northern and northwestern parts of the state late Saturday, and then slowly spreading into lower Michigan, the lower peninsula here during the day on Sunday. And then sort of a stagnant pattern continues early next week. We'll see almost a daily chance for scattered showers and thunderstorms. And again, not looking for a big widespread event, but this is really the next chance for, well, the next chances for precipitation, especially Monday, Tuesday, even into Wednesday. And most of the water, I think, while it will be drier than normal for this much of this upcoming week, here's the projected potential precip here for the week, and you can see that it varies from less than half an inch in far northeastern parts of the state to as much as an inch in the far southwest. The vast majority, almost all the color that you see here, is due to that rainfall that I talked about here coming late weekend and then early next week. The other issue, of course, given the timing of the year, this is not ideally timed because it will be almost a daily chance for rain. So again, thinking about field work and thinking about some of the early fall operations, that will be a potential issue. But again, this is not expected to be a widespread type of event. It will be a lot of hit and miss, and so you're going to probably have to look at it each morning carefully as to what the day may bring and watch the radar and so forth. There'll be a lot of that, but we've got several days of that coming. So the upcoming week, again, I think one of the bottom lines is certainly a better chance for precipitation or rainfall than we have seen in a couple weeks, especially in the southern part of the state, and that'll be a change given such a long dry spell. Water demands here for the upcoming week, given warmer than normal mean temperatures, and we will, by the way, I didn't mention values other than here for the next couple of days. We will see high temperatures cooling off a little bit by the end of the weekend and early next week, but generally still be from the upper 60s north into the 70s across the south. Lows generally in the 50s. So not a little cooler than they will be here over the next couple of days in the south, but still above normal for the time of the year. And with that, our water demands are expected to be from relatively low in the far northern parts of the state, 700ths of an inch a day only, to as much as maybe 13 or 14 hundredths of an inch in the far south. And that would be a fairly representative late summer value there. So still some fairly good water demand across the south. Looking on beyond that, then, in our medium range, both the 6 to 10 day and 8 to 14 day outlooks are consistent in calling on the left-hand side here for our jet stream to be somewhat further north than it typically is, with a broad ridge over the middle of the country. And meteorologically, that strongly suggests warmer than normal conditions. And you can see in the upper right-hand side here with our temperature forecast, virtually all of the continental U.S. expected to be warmer than normal. I think that's a really strong bet. Also, would say that for the 8 to 14 day time frame as well, which really takes us to the end of September. Now, for precipitation, a little bit of a mixed story there, but still generally, at least especially early, normal to below normal or drier than normal. And I think that that's probably a good bet. Yes, there will be some chances for precip, but the totals probably will remain below normal where they are. So September right now likely to finish up a little bit warmer and drier than normal. And again, thinking about fall operations, that probably is a beneficial type of pattern for us. Now, going beyond that, where next? Well, in the Pacific, looking at the El Nino Southern Oscillation, or ENSO, we are expecting again the formation of yet another La Nina event. That would be the third consecutive cool season we would have in a row. That doesn't happen that often, but that said, it's expected only to be weak. The bars that you see here, these are forecast probabilities looking at 3 month periods beginning this fall and then going out through next spring. And the blue bars that you see here are the probabilities of La Nina conditions, the cool episode. The grays, which are generally the highest probability, that's the forecast for neutral conditions. So neither La Nina or El Nino. And the bottom line is here, at least looking at the Pacific, we're expecting a weak La Nina event to develop here, really in the next few weeks, late fall, early winter, and then back to neutral by late winter, early spring, and probably into next growing season as well. And what does that mean for our weather here? Well, it's another La Nina forecast. It's not a given, especially given it's a weak event. The temperature outlook here for the winter, for the cold season months here, you can see equal chances. No forecast direction on temperature, but La Nina typically does give us a relatively active storm track through the Ohio Valley. And with that, normal to above normal precipitation totals. Many years we see above normal snowfall with totals with La Ninas. But again, given that it's weak, I don't know that we would put a lot of confidence in that. But that's, at least right now, that is the outlook for looking into the cool season. But more importantly, as we move in into the 2026 season, we would be back to, again, neutral conditions in the Pacific. So no direction. And so summarizing here, basically more of the same, but we do have an extended several day period with rain that will complicate things again in the field a little bit, at least, but no huge big weather systems or heavy rain expected, but certainly more than we've seen across the southern part of the state, and then looking at warmer than normal conditions. That's probably the major take-home forecast for the remainder of September and possibly even to early October as well. So it should provide hopefully more opportunities than can be the case here in Michigan this time of the year. And with that, I'm going to sign off and hand it back to Steve here, and wish you good luck here with fall harvest operations and getting everything done in a timely way.